Learning how to get along with others is an essential life skill that all people need in order to be successful members of society. We can help prevent bullying behaviors by aiding young children in their development of social problem-solving skills, empathy skills, and assertiveness skills. Social problem-solving skills allow people to analyze and resolve different social problems they might encounter in their daily lives. Some things you can do to help children develop social problem-solving skills are find concrete ways to teach children skills they need to solve problems they may face. Do this by discussing abstract problems using concrete methods such as puppet role plays, demonstrations, and using illustrated stories. Encourage impulse control and self-calming techniques with children when they're faced with strong emotions. Do this through modeling and providing many opportunities to practice.
Relaxation is a learned skill, and it's very important for children to have the opportunity to learn it. And so you ask them to melt like snow people or snow sculptures. You ask them to be tiny seeds that grow slowly into big flowers and trees. They love to be balloons, inflating and deflating. You can't, breathing is such an important part of relaxation, but they don't understand that. But they do understand breathing in and pretending to be a balloon inflating, and then deflating. And they just, get smaller as they deflate. You can't ask children to contract and relax their muscles because that doesn't mean anything to them, but you can ask them to be statues and rag dolls. Statues and rag dolls, and what they're doing is contracting and relaxing their muscles.
Help children practice attentive listening skills. This will help them understand what other children want and why. Do this by reminding children to look at one another when speaking, and by being quiet when the other person talks, then repeating what the other person has said so they know you understand.
One kindergarten teacher shared a story about a boy named Brian, and he called another child Tan Man. And this other child did in fact have skin that was tan. He came from Jamaica. And at the end of the week, the kindergarten teacher heard from the boy being called this name, called him Jonathan, that Jonathan was hurt by this and didn't want to come back to school the next week. And so the teacher sat down with Brian, the offending child who was calling the name, and she said, Brian, there are two kinds of hurts. There's an outside hurt that you can see, like a cut or a bruise, and there's an inside hurt that you can't see, like a hurt feeling. But the inside hurts actually hurt more and last longer than the outside hurts. And when you call Jonathan Tan Man, it hurts him so much, he doesn't want to come back to school. And then she continued and said, in our class, everyone has to be safe. I can't permit anybody to hurt somebody else. I wouldn't allow them to do that to you, and I can't allow anyone to hurt Jonathan. Do you understand what I've said? And tell me what I've said to you. And she required Brian to say back to her the words that she had used.
And provide children with practice in thinking of solutions, anticipating consequences, and evaluating the harmfulness of situations. Do this by concretely discussing different situations and their consequences with children before they happen. Empathy is the ability to recognize emotions, thoughts, or attitudes being experienced by another person. This involves understanding and responding caringly to what others think and feel. You can help children develop empathy skills by encouraging them to label their own feelings and tell others how they feel. Explaining that although people are different, we all experience certain basic feelings.
A friend of mine, actually, whose son was a Down syndrome child, was friends with some other parents who also had Down syndrome kids, and they were concerned about how their children were going to be treated once they entered kindergarten and elementary school. So they got together and they, as a group, went to the school and said, we'd like to do something proactive. We don't want our children to be excluded. We don't want them to be ridiculed. And we'd like other kids to understand the handicap that they have, as well as handicaps that other kids have, whether it's hearing impairment or blindness or physical immobility or being cognitively delayed in your development. So they signaled their concern to the school, and they offered actually to come in and to teach classrooms about different kinds of handicaps, and they took turns doing that. If it was Down syndrome, for example, they come in and they talk to the kids about the characteristics of a Down syndrome child. They have feelings like everybody else. You know, if you call them a name, it hurts. They want to have friends like everybody else, but they don't learn things quite as quickly. They're a little bit slower. They can learn things, but you have to be more patient.
Model empathy by talking about how you identify another's distress and think of ways to help.
Some kids just need general information. So you know what, when I was young, I had this problem and kids used to laugh at me and it made me feel really sad. And so kids, make them reflect on it. Has that ever happened to you? And get kids talking about, yes, my daddy said this to me that really made me sad. And then we should talk about, well, what do we do to make sure that no one in the class feels sad and no one in the group feels sad because of something we say. So I think you can start having those conversations with young people and they actually respond when they begin to realize, well, that's how I felt.
Being assertive means being able to stand up for oneself in a fair and respectful way without attacking others. You can help children learn to be more assertive by teaching them to speak directly to each other rather than through an adult. Ask for and offer things to one another in a polite and open-ended way. And say no politely and accept no for an answer by saying, okay. All of these skills can be taught through many different methods, including presentations, modeling, discussions, storytelling, videos, role-playing, games, and curricular activities.